Hello, welcome back to part 2 of the development of a platform. So, I was explaining what led me to a point where I wanted to bring it all together. I was talking about things on multiple different platforms, and I found myself getting to a place that I was tired. Simultaneously, the podcasts that I had been running, I have 3 podcasts in one place, and they were trying to merge everything. There's certain things that are going on online right now that if you're not one to have your ear to the ground or just observing from a perspective of a social media individual, that you wouldn't notice this. Most people just use social media, but those of us that work in the background of social media, where we're making articles, that we're developing platforms, that we're doing all of these kinds of things and we create content, only us will recognize these things because we're paying attention to certain metrics, we're paying attention to impact, we're paying attention to all of these things. So with that being said, I was all of these places. And I came to a place that because of the platform that I was on doing my podcast, they switched ownership. And this has happened on multiple occasions before, that when the ownership changes, the way that the platform operates changes. Now, I had created an application on a development place. I've been in search, and because I had mentoring for a season, that the mentor that I had, she was operating in certain different places and she would always give us suggestions. So I would go to the places that she suggested and prep and develop on and check out these places. You have to understand that it's always good to have mentorship, but it also is always good to check out certain things. I feel like the past several years has been a launching pad for me to come into the recognition of what I wanted to do. And I was doing it without the pressure of developing something and spending money on it because I wasn't committed at that point yet to any particular thing. They say there's this literal scripture, or not scripture, it's a quote, sorry, that talks about a person that is a jack of all trades but a master of none. But it's a latter part to that verse, don't have it in front of me right now, that talks about them being in alignment with one, right? That makes them somewhat ingenious. Okay, the time that it took me to develop these multiple places, I was learning something. I wasn't failing, I was just gathering information that built up self-development that I was able to see, gain wisdom, understand without the pressure of having spent money to develop a platform, to develop all of this, and actually committing. I was able to consistently create content, develop, see how platforms work, look at see it impressions, and I can tell you in all honesty right now, if you would go to my analytics for my Pinterest, I get 30,000 watch hours from people interacting with my Pinterest pins monthly. On LinkedIn, I get impressions on the daily. I have developed an influence in certain places. On one of my YouTube channels, I got over 1,000 followers. And I was able to observe, I was also able to observe how these algorithms work. We're coming into a season where, due to the way that these platforms are operating, and I truly believe that it's good anyway for you to be moving out of these platforms, because they're trying to bring you all together in one, but you have to be cautious of the way they're bringing you together, because if they have a level of control, if anything can happen and you no longer have access. So it's good. And this is the number one reason that I wanted to move to platform development. I have a secure place for my content. Now, with that being said, every person that I follow and look up to in this field, whether it be Jade Benson, Modern Millie, any of these people that I look up to in the field that I have had interest in, all of them have done one thing. They've either developed a newsletter, even Aaron on Demand, developed a newsletter and built around the audience that they developed in that place. So, due to the fact that I was being mentored in a season by an individual that wasn't interested in doing a newsletter, you got to be careful when you have mentoring, because sometimes you will get a group mindset that you're following the leader and the leader says, I'm not doing this, so you don't do it because the leader didn't do it. You shouldn't operate that way. You should operate in, maybe that's what they didn't want to do, but maybe I should because XYZ. Social media is fickle. And due to the fact that these algorithm changes, it's better to have a platform than to not have one. But I never thought about that. I thought about doing a newsletter once before. The reason I never did one back 12 years ago when I was interested with my fashion design is I did a Weber and ended up getting a hit to my account that darn near destroyed my credit and my banking account. So due to the season that I was in, I couldn't afford to keep doing that. So I backed away from email marketing during that season. But in this season, the Lord showed me something. I'm Christian. Understand, I'm a Christian content creator. So you'll hear me say, the Lord showed me something. There's a platform that operates for free. I was like, wait, you can build, you can develop, and you can do all these things, and I can bring all of my content to one place. And I said to myself, well, would you look at here? And due to the fact that I was dealing with the kickback in my podcast, the real reason is they were changing the entry code. And if you pay attention, for those of y'all that ain't been paying attention, I'm about to put you up on game. Google has changed everything. If you had a Google account, if you don't understand how to use passkeys, you screwed. And they did it in one day. I noticed it the beginning of last month at the time I'm recording this. And this month, they're kind of forcing you to use Google as your entry point. And then they then created passkeys. So if anything that you had that was under Google, if you don't have your passkey straightened out, you got to fight to get access to your stuff. To me, that's dangerous, especially if you're developing and building out something that you go in and you can't access your stuff. You hear me what I'm saying? So I came to a point that I said, I got to move. I got to shift. I got to get this podcast into a place that's more secure for it. And I need to set up something that is more sustainable. I was listening. One of the videos popped up from my old mentor, and she's talking about a platform. I didn't hear the name of the platform. I was dealing with something that day, so I was like, whatever. Next thing I know, the young woman, Aaron on Demand, was making suggestions on how to build a sustainable brand. And one of the suggestions was to create a newsletter, which brought me back to, remember you was going to create that newsletter. Now, when it comes down to newsletters, I had the one where I was trying to do with A. Weber, but a couple years ago, I was trying to do something with Mailer Lite. But I reached my limit on Mailer Lite. I developed the pages, but for some reason, I was unable. You need to be able to get your links straight. I created the content, develop it. I always used to reach this barrier in being able to, like, every time I was at a point that I wanted to build out something, something would always happen financially that would resist me being able to get what I was trying to do developed. Okay? So with that resistance, I ended up in a scenario where I wouldn't be able to develop the idea to the fullness of its capacity because something hit my bank card. Now something hit my bank card. My bank card is going through something, this, that, and the other. And I'm trying to build out a web page that I have a market cart. Something done got hit. And I'm sitting there like, well, this is, with that being said, coming to a place where I needed to shift. I knew I wanted to move to doing newsletters. Now, when I heard Aaron on Demand make the point of do a newsletter, and I was also hearing Modern Millie, and a lot of people were saying if they could go back in time for what they have made, the first thing they would have done was create a newsletter. Now, I had tried Miller Lite, but I kept running into those financial issues. Every time I started to do a payment process or something like that, it was something that would hit my account to do something that would throw off the whole system. And it always happened right at the point in time when I'm starting to build out something. If you're a spiritual person, you know, you know. Anyway. So, with that being said, I'm sitting there trying to figure out, is now the time I should really start my own newsletter? Aaron on Demand mentioned the fact that they were doing a newsletter on SubStack. But she was talking about, oh, with SubStack, you can do X, Y, and Z. I was like, wait a minute. I got this thing going on with my podcast. And she mentioned the podcast can be developed over there, whether you want them to pay or not pay. I was like, I can develop a paywall. Ooh. And I did a little bit deeper research because a lot of people are talking about, oh, you can have a Substack, but you can develop multiple Substacks under one Substack. Therefore, remember, I started out with multiple streams. I can now consolidate to one location. Ding, 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 ding. I'm like, sign me up, and it's free. How could I not? How could I not? So I came to the realization, Substack's my location. Let me start here. So, what did I do? I signed up for Substack. With me having signed up for Substack, I had to go through the process of learning the platform. But, unlike YouTube and all of the other platforms, this is a platform most people are not talking about. It's a hidden secret. The literal Substack, there are Substacks that talk about Substack. On YouTube, there are videos that talk about Substack. But there's missing information. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about the missing information. So let's talk about it. See you in the next one.